Today's lectionary gospel is by far the most read passage at Episcopal burial services. It powerfully offers comfort at this most difficult moment of someone's death. Jesus says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. In my Father's house there are many dwelling places. I go and prepare a place for you. I will come again and will take you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also." These kind and gracious words of Jesus in John's Gospel are rightly used in the context of saying goodbye to a beloved. The text further initiates an important part of a funeral service, the sharing of stories. I always ask the gathered community at the funeral to imagine what their loved one's dwelling place in God would look like, with all barriers lifted, being in complete joy and rest. Maybe they are reunited with someone who has previously died. Maybe they can now do things that frailty had no longer made possible. How does that vision of dwelling place illuminate the stories of their loved one? While we no longer see the person that died, they live in part in the stories we tell about them and the aspects and inspirations of their lives that we incorporate into our own. The funeral marks the reality of changed relationship, not the end of it. We laugh and cry at funerals because relationships connect all of those motions together. It's always my hope that the stories told publicly at funerals lead to so many more sharings of story with those who have come together, not just on that day, but in the many days to come. In the gospel passage, Jesus sets up a great exchange by concluding, "And you know the way to the place where I am going." And brave Thomas speaks up and says with both hope and worry, "Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way?" To which Jesus lovingly replies, "I am the way and the truth and the life." Now, I usually stop there at funeral services, not because the next part of the line is bad, but it requires theological exploration that's not well suited for a funeral service and can be heard as Jesus is the only way to God. But for me, the words, "No one comes to the Father except through me," is intended to be assurance that no matter what happens, no matter if the life lived forward is considered successful or a failure, that Jesus awaits to bring us into the full, unfiltered, and boundless relationship of the living God. And in fact, the disciples are to see this reality even now. Philip says, "Show us the Father," and is met with Jesus' "Can't you see God realized in me? God already dwells in me, and its center is love. That is the way you are to be in the world, loving one another as I have loved you." While the passage projects comfort and assurance, it is ultimately a call to show God to others through love. A love that abides in the interwoven connectedness of God's love for the whole world. And is also to enable action, which is sometimes going to the world beyond our fears, or, as is the case right now, social distancing our physical self from others to mitigate the spread of a virus that kills vulnerable people. It is what Bishop Greg Rickel calls communion theology. It is based on the idea that the common good, the good of all, is the good news, the gospel. Laying down your life for a friend is communion theology. Blessed are the meek is communion theology. Leaving everything behind and following is communion theology. Losing your life is communion theology. This is my call as a Christian in times like these, to look to the community, the whole, and to act so that we might be stronger together. Blessed be the name of God.